everyone, and welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join me, and if you are listening to this on a podcast directory or you're listening on iTunes, you can also come to Blog Talk Radio, to the page there, blogtalkradio.com/CoachDeb. And you can find an archive of shows going back almost 7 years now. So you can definitely check out all the wonderful entrepreneurs who have stopped by and really listen in and learn and even check out their businesses, because a lot of them have left their information about various things that you can do and how to work with them. Excuse me, so please make sure that you do that. And also you can check out my website, excuse me again, DeborahBailey.com. You can find out more about me, more about my books, and, generally different things, blogs and things that I have. And also one more thing, the blog, Women Entrepreneur Secrets on blogspot.com. That's the blog where we also have the show guest bios, and also there's opportunities if you have articles you'd like to post or ads. There's all kinds of information there for you, and also if you're interested in being a guest on the show, there's information there as well that you can download, and you can get more details about how to be a guest. So please stop by there as well. So I am going to first of all, unmute our guest before I introduce her. Hello, Mila?
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I want to make sure I introduce you first to everyone before I ask a little bit about, how you got started. So if you don't mind me calling you Mila, is that
absolutely
proper?
Yes,
great.
And thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so glad that you could be here. And Mila is a founder and president and CEO of MasterWord Services Incorporated. And within her company, she advocates for mindful multiculturalism as a way to unite a diverse workplace consisting of 20 different nationalities under one roof. She believes community involvement and service on both a personal and corporate level are the backbone of an organization. She's deeply involved in community and cultural engagement worldwide as an advocate for interpreters and translators. And in fall of 2015, MasterWord Services will launch the Wellness Connection, which is an exciting new tool, an online portal designed specifically with interpreters and translators in mind, to help reduce the vicarious trauma they may experience through their profession. And her website is www.masterword.com. So that really sounds so interesting and really something I think that many companies, if not all, can definitely benefit from. So, if you could just take a moment and just share with us, how did you get started with your company?
Well, MasterWord's mission is to connect people across language and culture, especially in today's world where we're all from somewhere else, and we get connected through technology and our ability to travel. You don't even have to leave your room to be doing business internationally today. So most of us experience the reality where our customers are international, our co-workers are international, and we all come from different backgrounds. So
that's
we're
very true.
Helping people communicate and connect across language and culture. Another interesting point that not many people know, there's over 6,000 languages being spoken in the world today.
Wow. That is a lot.
I know, that's a lot of languages. Most of the business, however, is done in about 40 languages, but just in the United States alone, we have experienced working with over 250 languages.
My goodness.
that's an amazing variety of different languages that people speak. But then another interesting point is that over 70% of our communication is nonverbal. Over 70% of our communication is our body language, our tone, our voice, and our perceptions of each other. What is interesting to know is those differ from culture to culture as well. They are not all the same. So, for example, what is a smile? A smile, to most people in America, would be how you welcome a stranger. A smile is something, just express that you're welcoming somebody else. In Asia, a smile is an expression of higher level of stress. You smile if you're exceptionally stressed. In France, you don't smile unless you're talking to a close friend. In Russia, there's many sayings that a smile represents basically that you're not so bright. So that's why Russians are famous for kind of never smiling. And the Western world's wondering why the Russians never smile. Well, because it has a different meaning as a body language. Knowing that when interacting with people or knowing other useful tips, for example, when managing multinational teams. Let's say you have a team where everybody comes from somewhere else. Most people in the Anglo-American culture would think that a person and his idea that they're presented are very separate. And if somebody's criticizing the idea, they're not necessarily criticizing the person. Yet in some other cultures, let's say Korea and China, a person and his idea are pretty much one and the same. And therefore, when you're criticizing the idea, you may be inadvertently also criticizing the person and therefore offending the person. When that happens in a team dynamic, that can create a negative outcome. It can potentially create conflict. So knowing that when you're managing an international team is very important.
Well, most definitely. I think those are things that people wouldn't even think about because they just make assumptions that everywhere is just the same way that it is where they are, where they're located. So
and very interesting that people on the other side of the culture would make the same assumptions.
Right. Exactly. So you wouldn't really understand why this person's acting in a certain way, and you may be forming all kinds of opinions, not knowing that they are, where they are from, there's a totally different way for behaving and interacting with other people. So
exactly.
So, when you formed your company, did you feel like a real interest in languages and cultures and different things? Is that kind of what led you to decide this is what you wanted to do?
Always loved languages, and I always wanted to help people understand each other because that's one way of making the world come a little bit closer together. One step at a time. And another interesting point is that over 20% of population in the United States, and in some areas over 30% of population, are considered limited English proficiency, the people who don't speak English well. So, for example, that's very important in terms of when it comes to hospitals and doctors and different government services, and especially emergency support services. How do you communicate with those people? How do you help them understand, for example, how to take medicine or discharge instructions from a doctor's office, or how to evacuate during a hurricane, an emergency time? And MasterWord is, together with Memorial Hermann Hospital, co-hosting a conference called International Language Services Conference on October 9th, where we'll be talking about best practices on diversity, inclusion, and language access. And we'll be also addressing how to communicate with people who have disabilities, for example, who need to talk sign language. And a very interesting point is that sign language is different from country to country and has regional dialects.
That's very interesting. Is sign language really practiced? I guess a lot. I'm sure that it is, but for instance, maybe I've seen it a couple of times in the workplace. I haven't always seen it. Is it something that you have seen a lot in different workplaces that you have encountered?
Sign language is very important in schools, in universities, at medical facilities, and the government offices, because we have quite a few people who are deaf and are not able to hear and use sign language to communicate. So anytime we want to communicate or include people who are not able to hear, we need to use sign language.
Exactly, and that definitely, is yet another form of communication. So that's also very extremely important to make sure that people are not being excluded from what the message is, and especially in the workplace, if they are a part of that, then they shouldn't be off, not understanding what's happening and not having the opportunities, that the other people there will also have. So, in your work, do you get to do a lot of traveling?
I do, and we do. We work in a lot of different parts of the United States, and we're also present in about 50 countries where we support our clients. So I get to do a lot of travel and discover that every place we go, people at the heart are people. People want to basically always have the best intentions. And if you just look a little bit deeper and step away or leave behind your potential cultural prejudice or ideas, then you're always able to find common ground.
Well, that's very true. That's excellent, an excellent point. So, when you're talking, since you work with a lot of businesses, if a manager, like say the United States, is going to have meetings with different people in different countries, do you have certain recommendations for them?
Well, absolutely. If you are going to either open an office or conduct business with a different country, try to learn a little bit about cultures and traditions in that country. Learn a few words like hello, you're welcome, how are you type of phrases, because that means that you're trying to understand the other culture. And if you're suddenly encountering somebody from another culture that you don't know or you've never dealt with before, be a little bit more observant of what's the comfort level, what's comfortable for the people from the other culture. For example, are they standing? If you're trying to stand closer to them, are they always moving away? Therefore, they would like to have a little bit further distance. Like in Great Britain, there is the so-called umbrella rule. People always standing away from each other, sort of a distance of an umbrella. Yet in some cultures, people stand very close together, and their separation is very close and may be very uncomfortable. So just try to have, basically be aware of cultural differences without passing judgment. Always ask yourself the anthropologist question. I wonder why he or she is doing that. Focus on building rapport and trust by mirroring the appropriate cultural behavior. And then have strategies for politely handling some unexpected situations.
Well, that seems like that would be very tricky. You're not sure how to take care of something without insulting someone and not realizing that's what you're doing. Because I'm sure that can come up quite a bit. And just the idea of personal space, that's very interesting, because I don't think people always recognize that. Different people have, different ways of interacting that may mean that they feel that they have to, like you're saying, like the umbrella rule and that kind of thing, where maybe someone here may not be sure what to make of that.
Correct. So just try not to think the worst. Always try to think the best.
Well, exactly, because a lot of times people don't do that. They're so sure something is wrong, and then that just leads to them to, behave in a certain way that just it will probably just make it worse worse if you start thinking badly that something is wrong or someone is doing something against you. So that's an excellent point to make. So what do you recommend for a business person who may want to give a gift to another person professionally, let's say, and if they should even do that? Are there any particular rules?
There are some rules within all different cultures. Well, of course, you have to consider the rules within American corporations that limit gifts to certain amounts and size. And those are the rules among many American companies. But to give a small gift, you always want to be considerate. You, again, want to look at the cultures where gift giving is an important part of the tradition. You may not want to give a very personal gift. I would recommend possibly giving a gift that's part of the American culture that we know better in a way, because probably we won't impress a person, let's say a Chinese person with Chinese tea, and especially we may make a mistake and give a wrong kind of tea to a Chinese person, but a gift that represents more of an American culture, giving to another person or another company would be probably a good idea within certain limits. And then also keeping in mind that gift giving is a tradition for many cultures. But, for example, in America, it's a tradition to open the gift right away. Yet in certain other cultures, believe China and believe India, you don't open the gift right away because you may, it kind of shows that it's a bad it's a bad taste to open the gift right away. You take the gift, you thank the other side for the gift, and then you will open the gift later. So you want to look at which cultural setting you're going to have the gift exchange in, and read a little bit about it to know what to expect.
So you'll have an idea of what's the right thing to do.
Correct.
So you won't get into trouble before you do it. Oh my goodness, yeah, that could be very bad if you're trying to make an impression and then you're doing something that really turns people off. So, do you find that there are things that often that Americans in these other countries may kind of make a mistake and come across in a rude kind of way?
Well, of course, you always have mistakes that Americans make, but at the same time, you always have mistakes that we see people from other cultures make in this country as well. So just being mindful, one of the mistakes that Americans make is American culture is very open and very personable. And Americans would always want to know, how is your family, how's your kids, how's your wife? And in some cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, those are the questions that you don't normally ask, especially to another man. You may be very open to compliment somebody's wife, or your wife is beautiful. Again, in the Middle East, that's not a good idea. In other cultures, for example, crossing your legs and showing the bottom of your foot is also not a good idea. So putting your feet on the ground is a better idea. So just being generally mindful. So if you're working with a particular culture, do a little bit of research of some of the main points. But if you're working in America, and if you're experiencing people from different cultures who are in America, like we have within our company people from over 20 countries just in the head office, then being open-minded, being flexible, and trying to accommodate all different styles. For example, I'll give you another idea about a meeting. An expectation from a meeting for an American is it's an exchange of ideas. For an Asian culture, that would be a place where all of the decisions are being announced. You're not expected to be called on the spot unexpectedly, and you will not be asked, what do you think, or for your input without prior preparation. And at the same time, people from the Netherlands look at a meeting as a place where they will criticize everything wrong with a particular idea. That's their expectation of a meeting. So if you're having different groups coming in, you may say that in this meeting, we'll be having an exchange of ideas. At the same time, we'll be looking at what's wrong with a particular idea, what's right with a particular idea. We may call you and ask you for your opinion. So be prepared when you come to the meeting to have an in-depth discussion. And therefore, you sort of incorporate all potential cultural differences that may arise. And at the same time, everybody's coming prepared to expect what to expect.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice across the board. maybe if more meetings were announced like that, they'd be more productive. I think so. I think that would be good for anyone who is going to have a meeting to really state their objectives before they just get started, so everybody knows what to expect. So what are some recommendations you have for those business people who really want to be able to manage these different diverse teams?
Be flexible. The first thing is be flexible with the management and communication styles. Also important to know, are you working with individualistic versus collectivistic culture, where in U.S. is individualistic, where personal success is more important, personal competition is more important. Collectivistic is a group success is more important. And you would be more effective if you're promoting a success of a group as opposed to an individual person. Low versus high context communication. Low context communication is people take literal meaning. Look for direct meaning. High context communication, it's more of an implied meaning. A lot of attention is given to additional information. The concept of face is very important. Then low versus high power difference. In America, a typical situation, there is a low power difference, meaning you can sort of pat your boss on the back and sometimes make an informal comment to your boss. High power difference, there's a big separation. And that type of cultural environment, actually micromanagement is what people look for. We had actually a situation in our office where one of the employees was pretty unhappy because his supervisor was not involved or his or her supervisor was not involved in every detail of the job, was not micromanaging. And that was very interesting.
Yes.
So at the same time, most Americans, they despise Anglo-Americans, they despise micromanagement. So having an open mind and being mindful and being flexible with your management style is very important.
That sounds like a perfect, perfect qualities to have to be able to interact no matter who you're dealing with. So I think that sounds really perfect. And, that's interesting about the micromanagement because you're right. People, that is one thing people here really, that's the worst.
They really don't like.
No, that's the worst thing that you can have, and so many people complain about that. If they're going to complain, that's usually the thing that comes up first. So that is very much, something that you will hear that people really cannot take. So that is really interesting to think. In other places, perhaps that's a virtue, So it's. That's very interesting, and a good example of how different, different cultures are looking at the same behavior. That's an excellent example of that. So, why don't you share with everyone, again, your website and any other ways that they can find you online, or if there's anything coming up, any events or anything that you want to share, that'd be great too.
Our website is www.masterword.com. We help our clients succeed in over 250 languages. We provide both written translation and interpreters for verbal communication. And we're looking forward to having our clients and friends and anybody interested join us on October 9th for the International Language Services Conference, where we'll be sharing the best practices for diversity, inclusion, and language access.
And where is that going to be held?
The conference is going to be held in Houston, Texas, and the details can be found on www.masterword.com.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds like a really exciting time to connect with people who are in your business and who are also bringing different perspectives, to the table. So I'm thinking that must be a very pleasant place to be, because people are going to be so mindful
and diverse.
Yes,
we'll be sharing best practices.
So it'll be a nice place to see all the different people together who are working in these situations, but also who have an awareness of how to work with others and how to bring all that to the table. So that sounds to me like that would be a fantastic experience. Definitely for anybody who's interested in this, and also for people in business, or people who are even if you have a small business, if you are able to get to something like this, it's you can do business across the world. So this is not something just limited to a major corporation. It really is open to anyone who really has a desire to work with other people in other places. Definitely. So,
and it is interesting how today we are doing business across the globe. For example, we are all diverse, but we're very interconnected. And it's very interesting to note that a very large portion of, I believe, transactions on eBay is international. So all you have to do to do international business is go on eBay today.
That's right. That's so true. Actually, it's really pretty big. I'd gone on there and sold a vintage pocketbook, and someone from Italy bought it, and so I was like, wow, that's really interesting. It took me a while to get there, with the shipping and everything, but I thought that was really fascinating that this person saw this thing that I had in my house here in New Jersey, and now it was on its way to another country, and it's a vintage piece, so it's been around for quite a while. So it's kind of making its journey to different countries,
across borders and across the ocean.
Yes,
how fantastic!
I know, So that was very interesting, and what you're saying is so true. The average person can sell these things, or they can set up a shop on there or somewhere else, and here they are, a global business person. So for those listening, don't think this is beyond you. It really isn't. That's what we're saying. It's something that you can do or have been doing. So you can certainly benefit from these services and learning these different competencies. So, Mila, we're at the end of the program. Are there any final thoughts did you want to end the show with?
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm very honored to be on the program. I believe that we're a very small world, and if we take a minute to connect and understand each other better, then we are making one more step towards a more peaceful world and a more friendlier world. So I'm very excited about being on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. That was perfect. A perfect way to end that. I'm so thankful that you were on, because I've learned so much in this time, and I think it's excellent work that you're doing. It's really beneficial to all. So I thank you for the enthusiasm you bring to it. And thank you for being on so you could share this with everyone who's listening and will be listening in the future, and will definitely check out your services. So once again, it's been my guest, Mila Golovine. I hope I pronounced your name properly.
You did great. You did great.
Perfect. She's the CEO, founder and president of MasterWord Services, Inc. So please make sure you visit her site, masterword.com, and check out what she's got to offer. And if you can get to that conference, that's another wonderful thing you can do for you and your business. So please make sure that you do that as well. And you can definitely share what you've heard here, and come to blogtalkradio.com/CoachDeb, or also on the blog, womenentrepreneursecrets.blogspot.com, and you will find links there to listen to this show once it's available on iTunes as well. So there'll be different ways you can listen. Please share it with your friends and let them know to check it out. So once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.